Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So in today's video, I'm working on the Toyota Sienna here. So I've got an SE, which has the manual rear quarter windows. So in today's video, we're gonna be retrofitting it with the motors from the XLE and the Limited. So in today's video, we'll go through how to install these motors, wire everything up, and see if your van is plug and play versus my van where I have to do some wiring. So stay tuned. So to do this project, you're gonna need these motors right here. So you're gonna need a right one. The part number is right there. And then you also need the left one right here, which that's the part number right there. So these part numbers are pretty much the same between 2004 all the way up to 2020. And what you wanna do is you wanna check these because they made several iterations of them. I'll post all the part numbers down in the description if you guys wanna check those part numbers out. But the ones from the last generation also work, as well as the one from the current generation. And they're gonna change the back 5 letters or numbers right here of the part number, which differentiates different versions of the same motor, but they all do the same thing and they're gonna all work. As far as everything else you need, you're gonna need this tab right here. I'll also post the part number for this tab, and we're gonna reuse the screw and the other fitting off the old one because it fits into here also. Included with that, you also need these little clips that go into here that hold the ball joint into there. So that is pretty much all you need on the motor side. As far as all these parts go, you could buy them all brand new from the dealer. It will end up costing you about $250 to $300 for all the parts. Or you could go down to your local junkyard, find one of the older 2004 up to 2010 versions of the Sienna. All of those came with these rear vent windows, so there's plenty of these in the junkyard to get, and you should be able to get them for much cheaper at the junkyard. Don't forget to get the wire harness. That's one of the things that's gonna be hard to come by. These things are very expensive as far as the wires go. I think the plug is like $5, but the pins and everything that go into here are like $10 or $15 just by themselves. So it's better to get these in the junkyard than trying to buy them brand new. Back on the dash side, you're gonna need a switch. So you can see I got 3 different switches here. I got these from all the different junkyard trips I've been out there. As you can see, they have these two have this blue plug. This one has the white plug. The white plug is for the 2011 to 2014 version that has, I believe, the green backlight. So this thing's actually lit up green, where the 2015 and up use, I think, a white or a blue backlight. So this is the one that has that, and you can distinguish it by the color of the plug right here. And as far as this plug goes, if you have a 2011 up to 2014, these plugs are actually on the vehicle itself. It's pre-wired for all this stuff. So it's pretty much plug and play for this retrofit on that version of it. On the newer versions, 2015 and up, they quit including this on the factory harness. So it's not pre-wired, but everything else I'll show you in a minute is there. So on the car side, the switch is gonna go in this blank slot right here. Once we take this all apart, I'll show you behind there, there's a pre-wired plug that plugs straight into that switch I showed you that goes right here. That's what makes it plug and play on the earlier versions where you just plug this in, you put the 2 motors in, and you're ready to rock and roll. On my version, which is a 2015, I'm about to do a little bit more work. So back here to access everything, what we're gonna have to do is basically take this part, unbolt the seat belt right here, take this whole panel out so we have room to work back here. We have to do the same on the other side, except we have to take the jump seat out right there so we can get access to it, but we need to take apart the same things on this side just to pull that panel off so you get access where we can screw in our motors and find the wiring and everything. And inside my van, you see I've got all my seats out and everything folded up. I recently brought the car in for the sliding door recall, so I went ahead and just took everything out to make it easier for them to do the recall and faster. So that's why I'm deciding to do it now, just because I know I have to run some wires back here all the way up to the side there, and I have access to it all right now since I have everything taken apart. All right, so the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead, unbolt the seat belt right here, unbolt this thing. I think this thing you just push in and pull out. It's just a compression fit, so it comes right out. Over here, I believe this is a 14 millimeter. Yep, it's a 14. Go ahead and unbolt this thing. So once that comes off, it has a thing that keeps it from falling out, so we want to do that. Go ahead and just pop this thing out. It should just come right out with all the stuff around here. Just undo it. it makes it better. Just go ahead and just pull this stuff off right here. Just pull this whole upper panel off. I've got this little light that I retrofitted here, so I just got plugs up here so I could just undo these. This comes right out. So over here, just gonna make sure you get everything. You can see the bolt back there that holds on with a little washer that keeps it from dropping out. We just wanna make sure we get all the clips out and then pull this thing out. This overhead panel is still stuck right here, so I gotta pop that off. This is my light that I retrofitted up here with the wiring, so I just tuck that away up ahead over here. This thing's stuck to this right here with some tabs, so you gotta release that. Oh, the bottom thing, the black one comes out first. Yeah, let's make this. Damn, they make this thing pretty damn hard. Not as easy as I thought. So this bottom kind of clips into there, so this actually has to come out first, but this top one you just kind of pull out, releases some of that, and then it takes a lot of this pressure off, and then you can kind of wiggle it around and pull this thing out of the way. Yeah, that was a big pain. Just be careful not to lose any of this stuff right here. So once we get in here, you can see the two 10mm that hold this thing on right here. We go ahead and unbolt that. If this was already pre-wired for the actual thing, it would have a wire somewhere right here that goes all the way up and it bolts onto here. It would have some kind of harness strap or something that bolts in or clips in right here, and then it goes right into the motor, but we don't have that on the 2015. So you can see we have nothing to work with, so you have to pull the wire back here. I've heard stories that the 15 and 16 didn't really have this, but on the 17 and maybe the 18, for some reason it had it on the passenger side, just one harness that was wired to the front, I believe, or maybe it wasn't even wired at all. I forgot what it was, but there was a harness there that someone was able to use on a 2017. So that was just one report on Sienna Chat that we heard about that. So on this side, we'll do the same. We'll go ahead and unplug this stuff right here that we don't need for now. So this side didn't get stuck in there like that side. So pop that out. So now that we got it, go ahead and pop this back a little, pop the top off, and kind of down here, just take this out. We'll go ahead and try to pop the black and pop this thing back like that. This side's a little bit easier just because we don't have the other motor and everything else in the way. We have to undo the plugs right here just to get it out of the way for the cigarette lighter. Out of the way, so now we got access to both sides and we start putting the motors in and wiring everything up. So again, looking on this side, no pre-wired condition here, no wire or anything. We just have the buzzer right here for the trunk alarm when you close it. There is a random little plug here that's not part of this system. It's for something else. All the other HVAC stuff is on this side and then right there. So we'll just go ahead. What we're gonna do is run that wire across here to the other side, get it connected right there and daisy chained, and then go all the way to the front with just two wires. So before we get started, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna separate this thing right here with these two clips that hold it in, just pop that clip out on either side to get the ball joint out. Once we pop that thing out, we take this out of the ball joint, and then from there we want to mount the motor and then get this thing onto the window side. Go ahead, take apart the 10 millimeters on these two. The next thing you need to do is you get access to the Torx right here. So it's an E30 Torx. It's not on that tight. So you can hold the back side, because you have to reuse these Torx and then the washers and everything behind it. Slowly wiggle it off. There's rubber gaskets that kind of hold it on, but this thing comes off and you can mount the new mount onto there now. So the new motor is going to go on like this, and then this thing kind of pivots back and forth, and then the ball aims downward. So what we need to do is go back in like this with the ball down on this one. Just make sure everything's good. All good there. Go ahead. This thing mounts into there. There's a little hook on the back that's gonna help you line up, and then just hook it in place before you put the 10 millimeters in, and pretty much get that in place. One thing you'll notice is when you screw in the 10 millimeter, the bottom hole is not the same hole that the old one used, because there are different alignment marks, so it's going to be a little bit harder to turn. You just want to turn it by hand and just get it in there first before you shoot it in with a drill or anything. So you're going to get that. So once we're in there, just make sure we tighten it down to about 9 foot-pounds. Then once we do that, we want to make sure that we snap this thing in. All right, so right now we're pretty much good in there. All right, so one thing I noticed was that this thing is actually on 180 degrees the wrong way, because this is like the closed position and it's on the opposite side of the actual mount right there. So what I'm gonna have to do is pop this thing out. There's two little clips that you kind of compression fit, or you kind of pry with a flathead and slide this thing out, because it slides inside here like that. So we'll go ahead and just flip them and make sure that we're on the right orientation. So right here, you see the little clip on both sides there, and it slides into that. So that's how this thing comes on. It's probably best to just get this thing in there and then put this thing on last. That way we make sure it clips in the right position and it's in the closed position. So I'm gonna go ahead and take both sides off. As far as this thing goes, you'll see that clip right there. That thing is removable. You pull it from the side that goes the closed side out this way. Make sure when you get it into the window that it's facing downward, because if you have it upside down like this, vibration will cause it to come loose and this thing might fall out or release the ball. So you want to make sure it's the top down when it goes in. So we got this thing off, and you can see once you go into here, you see the ball and everything. It slides in that direction and it snaps in, and everything looks good there as far as the orientation and everything. The pin is on the upside, so once we power this up and test it, I'll make sure I snap it all in just to make sure it works. Take care of this side. Same thing with the motor, hook it in, align your holes, get the 10 millimeters in and hand thread them so they catch. As I mentioned earlier, I have to do some wiring on my car, so I went ahead and picked up some 16 gauge primary wire right here. I picked up a whole box of it with various colors, but the two main colors I needed was the red and yellow to match the red and yellow on this plug. And even on the car side, I believe the colors are also red and yellow over there, so we're gonna go find that, tap into the existing wires on the harness, and then pull it all the way back so I can plug it onto one side of this on the driver's side, and then I'm just gonna daisy chain it onto the other side over the roof to get to the passenger side, so that way I don't have to run it that far on that side. So under the dash, the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and take apart this scuff pad right here. pull this panel off right here. All it's held on is by this little 10mm screw, plastic screw right here that we're gonna pull out. And then here, there's a clip down here and we just pop that thing out. We'll go ahead and pop this thing up so we get access to this area. I'm gonna go ahead and remove this panel so I can access behind here to get to that switch, and I'll show you guys everything there. So we'll go ahead and get into all this and then I'll show you what's inside once we get in there. So once we get into here, there's two 10mm on either side of this that take this whole panel apart down here. So we're gonna take those two 10mm out, pop the panel out. The airbag actually stays in here. We're gonna unplug this switch. Over here, there's your HVAC sensor and another harness that we have to unplug on that side. That pretty much undoes everything and we just pull the whole panel off. Once we get underneath, like I said, over here, there's that HVAC sensor and the switch that we have to undo on that side. I already did this switch right here, which is to turn off the power sliding doors. We have to undo these covers right here if you just want to take this thing and get it out of the way so you can see everything that's going on here. If you have a plug and play situation, you probably don't need to do all this. I just want to kind of get it out of the way because I wanted to clean up some of these wires they did the recall on. As I suspected, these guys at the factory, they kind of shortcutted this and did not really route everything the way that the book says. So while I'm in here, I'm gonna go ahead and reroute that zip tie and actually cut the zip ties, because as you can see, those Toyota technicians, they're just trying to do this stuff fast without really thinking about it or doing everything correctly. So I'm gonna go ahead and redo all this. So underneath this, there was another wire down here too that was for the TPMS set right here. That's your set point for the tire setting that you want to set. So that button is there. For the sensor, I just went ahead and popped it out as one piece. That way it came out, I didn't have to worry about that tube. Other than that, for the cable, you just slide it to the side and then kind of pull this thing and then pop it from the side of this thing to take the cable out, and then the whole panel comes out in one piece. The next thing we want to do when we're in here is to go ahead and pop this cover off. So you just go ahead and just pull it off and it comes right off here. And you can see this blue plug right here that goes into this blank. So you can just pop the blank out from the back. These things only pop out from the back, so don't try to pry them from the front. You're gonna end up marring all this stuff and messing it up. So you got this here. In addition, there's this other white plug here too. This thing is also for one of the optional items right here that are missing from the 5 empty slots right here, or the 5 slots that we have right here. We got 3 that are empty, and then we got 2 that are being used, and then we're going to use this one. So a lot of these Toyotas always come pre-wired with all this stuff. So we got this plug. There's another plug kind of hidden back here. It's a 2-pin plug for something else. I'm not sure exactly what it is. It looks like the same plug that goes into the motor, but there's one back here for that. So I've got my switch here. We'll go ahead, kind of put it right into there. Just snaps right in. Got the rear vent, and then back here the blue plug goes right into there, and pretty much we're done behind here as far as what we need to do for the switch. I'll show you where the wiring is. Down here there's another plug that has these same wires. It's a red and yellow in here that are the same red and yellow that go to the back. So we're gonna go trace those down here and find out where they're at and go ahead and tap into those to go to the back. So I mentioned earlier that illumination, so it's really just that button right there, that little circle, that's the different color. So the 2011 to 14, that's a green to match the rest of this. On here it's more of a bluish white to match the rest of the things here. So for the wiring, it's this black plug that plugs into here. Is going to be the plug that has our wires that go up there, right? So the 2 thick wires, the red and the yellow right here, are the 2 wires that we need to connect up that feed the motors back there. So they're going to be right next to each other. They're the thicker 2 of the red and the yellows. I'm assuming these other 2, the thin ones, probably go up to the top to the switch, but we want to tap into these thick red and yellows here to match the back, and that's pretty much what the wiring is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run the wire from the side here, kind of run along the whole edge, come up from the bottom there all the way around, and then pull up as I get back there so I can reach that back one. So for the pathway of the wire, I'm gonna just kind of follow the zip ties and everything they just did for the door recall. You just go through here. I'm gonna just go ahead and unbolt the seat belt right here so I can pop this panel so I can tuck it under here and make it nice. And then go ahead and just follow some of my zip ties all the way through back there along the floor and then come up back here. Once you remove this little panel right here, you can pretty much see the structural steel support that goes across here. So you want to route the wires underneath. If you had the recall done like I did, they would have routed it underneath also, away from all these airbag wires and everything, but you want to just go along there and just pull it along the same zip ties and the same pathway right there. So far so good, got everything routed through, came through here. I've pulled it out right now, and then we'll go ahead, just keep going all the way back, and then I'm gonna make a turn up right there before the jump seat, around the seat belt area and the shock tower, bring it up, and then go around up top there. So we routed this thing through here, through this panel. I tucked it all the way under there and then got it into there, and then we're out the back now. So once I got the wire to here, I just fished it up to the shock tower, up here around the seat belt. I'm gonna bring it around the corner here and bring it up to the actual motor up here, and then solder those wires in. Now that I got enough slack and everything to work with back here, I'm gonna go ahead, run a cable across the top here and over to this side, and then terminate all this stuff with some solder and heat shrink. So for this side, I went ahead and fished it right under this duct over here. Over the duct, there's a little cutout right here, or cover that covers that, but then I went above all the wire and everything behind the seat belt right here on the front of it. We want to get it on that front side of that seat belt, get it across all this stuff. There's some foam and other wire harnesses, so we want to go ahead and try to get to this wire harness location right here. Looks like when they did my tailgate replacement, they popped this little harness out, and you can see it's kind of broken right here, and this thing's not popped in place. I need to pop that back in place, but we're just gonna follow the harness over here and then just stay with that and zip tie to that. All right, got my soldering station set up. So this solder, if you guys haven't done this before, what you want to do is heat the wire up and your substrate, and then let the solder melt into it. That way it penetrates and gets into all the spots on there. You don't want to put the solder on the iron itself. So now that we got it pretty much intact, just let this cool a little bit. Slide your heat shrink over it, and then heat it up to get it back to shrinkage. So went ahead and wire managed everything, put a little piece of loom right there into the motor, got it zip tied along the harness across the top here as a bundle or a pair. Did some tape over here. I'm coming out right there. I'm gonna go ahead and solder another pigtail on that end, put a piece of loom and plug it right into that motor, and we went ahead and finished that solder on this side. We'll go ahead, finish this up, and then we'll wire up the front and test this thing out and see if it works. So for the front here, what I did was I popped the little thing right here. So I released the lock for this harness right here. I used one of my keys right here that you just kind of push in. You push in the thing to release the pin, and then you just pull these pins out. Once you do that, you can solder this and then slide heat shrink on it easily, and then re-put it back in so it looks OEM. Okay, got everything soldered back up, heat shrink. It looks like OEM now. I'm going to go ahead and wrap it with some electrical tape, plug it back up and test this thing, and hopefully everything works. Got everything wired up, test it, it's working. Some of my wiring connection was kind of bad or something on the solder here. Initially it wasn't working, I was getting low voltage, but I ended up kind of squeezing my solder joint in there, And I think it's making good contact now. So I'm gonna have to check on that later, but pretty much done with this. Put it all back together now. All right, got everything back together. Pretty easy to put it all back together versus taking it apart. Really, the first thing you need to do is get this panel up, kind of bolt it together, get all the clips back in, and then you just snap everything back in place because everything kind of goes around it. So the black trim down here kind of snaps in place. This trim snaps in place. Just snap it all in. Pretty much all pops back in together with no big issues. I think there's still a little gap here, so I just gotta have pop these things in right there until it hits. But yeah, we just need to get it all back in. But overall, pretty easy job. As you can see, I'm a little bit OCD with my wiring. I want to make everything look OEM and pretty much keep everything factory in this car, especially all the wiring and making sure I have wire management. Hey guys, thanks for watching all the way to the end of this video on all this tedious wiring and all the details and OCD-ness with all my wiring. If you guys found this video useful, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed to your channel, go ahead and subscribe to your channel, turn on bell notifications to get notified every time I upload a video. For all these different videos, if I can do it, you guys can do it. I want to thank you for watching, and I'll talk to you guys next time.